Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Ohio VolleyTalk podcast. I'm Nicholas Glenn here with Tyler Bush, and today we are joined by Bishop Fenwick Coach Christina Gustley. So today, the first question I want to ask is obviously you guys are having a great season. What has really allowed you guys to be as successful as you are, especially being undefeated in your conference so far?
That's a good question. I think the losses to the D1 teams have really shown us a lot. We've learned from those. It's made us tougher and stronger. But I think the guys at this point are really coming together. And we've told them we haven't seen their best volleyball yet, which is a good sign. So we're playing well. A lot of improvement still needs to be made. But we told them going out against Baden Thursday, just play for each other. And I think they took that to heart and they did a good job.
You talk about not seeing their best volleyball yet. The last four games of the regular season are far from easy on your schedule. What do you think the guys need to lock in with to come out on top of those four games to have a performance that you'd like to see from them?
I think the guys really need to come together with the setter hitter connections and making sure the setters are distributing the volleyball to everybody so we're not predictable. But the GCL just keeps getting better, and there's no games off for us. So the guys have to continue to communicate. That's a huge one, communication, and go out and just play cohesively.
Yeah, and going along with the tough schedule, you guys have a game tomorrow against McNick, who are the two-time defending state championship or the state champions. Sorry, just what is kind of your approach to that game? Because even though they're not the they lost a lot of guys from the last couple of years, there's still a big threat to the state. Just what's your approach as you look into that game?
Well, we have to focus on the things that we can control on our own side. Aiden Williams is a very strong player, and he has some supporting cast, and they're playing better toward the end of this season. So we just have to take care of business on our side and control what we can defensively and offensively for sure.
This you got a lot of talented seniors on your roster too. Can you speak a little bit to how impactful they've kind of been this year, just on and off the court?
Sure. So we have our captains, Will Lenz, Kian O'Connell, and Parker Povsey, who have been the core as far as leading the guys. Parker is, six rotations. He's setting a 6-2, extremely strong hitter, lefty. And I can't say enough about him. Will Lenz has just really turned it on in the back half. He's a three-sport athlete, so it's really tricky for him to come off golf and then basketball, which is demanding, played in both semesters. It's a lot. So, started off slow, but now he's really coming around. And then Kian O'Connell, talk about a selfless player. We moved him from the middle to the outside to help him. He has really bad knees. And so we wanted to take away some of that lateral motion for him. And he's just been top notch. And he is a leader by example for sure, Kian. Yeah. And then we have Zach Evans, who's a DS. We have Simon McKinney as the libero, who is again moved into that position, a third of the way through the season and has done a fantastic job. Very proud of him. Griffin Weber in the middle is as consistent as they come. So we have a lot of strength in our seniors. And then we have, Will Sabin Jr. Is playing opposite front row for our other setter, Gabe Armstrong, also a junior. Zach Sabin, sophomore, DS for Kian. So we have some strength. Freshman Ray Overbeck was a pleasant surprise this year, and he's just been getting better. So we're really excited for him and his future, for sure.
Yeah, and you mentioned before how you guys have yet to play your best volleyball. Just like kind of breaking that down a little bit. Like what does that look like? What does the best version of Fenwick volleyball look like in your eyes?
Well, I think reducing the amount of service errors would be helpful for our team. Yeah, and just defensively covering the court best we can. Um, Again, consistency with ball location with our setters. All of those things play into us really playing. It's never error free, but you'd like to go as close as you can to that. So.
And we're nearing the end of the season here, and like Nick said at the start, you guys are doing incredibly well in your conference. But are there any other goals for the team? Do you feel like you guys are reaching your goals? Obviously, the number one goal is always state, but are there any other goals that you guys had coming into the season?
That's a good question. We go about it a little bit differently, and rather than focus on state every single second, we work on being better than we were yesterday. And nothing is given and everything is earned. We've been that way for a long time now. So, each day coming in and giving 100% of what you have in the tank that day is the theme.
Yeah, and obviously with the season kind of dwindling down a little bit and the postseason coming up quicker than maybe we would have expected, every single game is probably one of the most important games of the season. Just like, what do you tell your team just to kind of keep them mentally prepared and like not to get too ahead of themselves?
Well, we go back to earning every point and being locked in. We emphasize not taking plays off, which is a lot about shutting down the other team's runs. If your outside takes a play off and then your middle takes a play off and your libero, pretty soon the other team's got 4 or 5 point run. So we really focus on each play at hand in doing the best we can in that particular play. We're trying not to look ahead too much.
And as we get to the it's the last four regular games, regular season games for you guys. Is there anyone out of those four that you guys really have like circled, like this is our big benchmark or big test before we head into the playoffs?
I really think all four are equally important for us. Thursday will be senior night with CJ, so that will be fun to give them a great send off. But the tri match on Saturday with St. Charles and St. Vincent's going to be tough. Those are two tough teams. Again, that we haven't seen yet. And I do like to end the season with that strong tournament, that tri match for sure. But again, McNick's playing well. CJ's better than they've been in the past. And those two tri match games are, yeah, definitely an emphasis there.
Yeah, and we've seen across the whole state earlier in the season where tri matches and like weekend tournaments tend to go a little not as we would expect, usually just because of the fatigue and just the amount of volleyball being played in a short amount of time. How would you and your team try to manage that to try to play to the best of your ability, even with the high demand of volleyball being played in a very short amount of time?
Well, we emphasize a lot of hydration, a lot of protein, a lot of eating well and sleeping well. I think a lot of times that goes, unnoticed or not talked about. And I think for our guys, it's difficult because they're moving into finals right now. So we need to focus on taking care of our bodies. We do a lot of mobility, we do a lot of band work. We're still lifting. Actually, if it were up to me, I'd rather play best out of 3 than best out of 5 on those tri matches because I don't think this was a game that was built to be played multiple times to 5 sets in one day. So, but we just, again, they got to hydrate, they got to eat properly throughout that day, got to hydrate 2, 3 days before, got to get a lot of great rest. All those things play into the success of our team for sure.
If there was a one thing from the team that you felt you could fix right now before you guys got to the tournament and the playoffs, what do you feel like that would be?
Hmm. Just an uptick in communication, definitely. We have great athletes, we have talented volleyball players, but we have a lot of quiet kids. So it's always a challenge. And I know every coach is struggling with this right now is just to get them to communicate incessantly.
All right. Well, I think that's all that we had for you. Are there any more thoughts or any shout outs that you want to give out before we conclude today?
I don't. I would like to say that I really appreciate the help that we have with our staff. We have a super strong staff, and I have a lot of appreciation for what they do behind the scenes. So
All right, great. Well, we want to thank you for taking the time to speak with us today.
I appreciate you guys reaching out. It was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you,
Yeah, it's
Coach.
nice to meet you too. Thank you.
All right, after talking to Coach, we've got a few games from this last week and obviously a few games from this upcoming week. There was a lot of good ones this week. Nick, I feel like we should start with the one that was maybe the most surprising to both of us, and there's some outrageous stat lines in this game.
Yeah, obviously the one that we're alluding to is the St. X Bombers against the Elder Panthers. St. X sweep 3-0 at the pit. Joe Taggart just played out of his mind, 26 kills in 3 sets, which is just unbelievable. And it really just seemed like St. X was in control the entire game. Like they didn't really, or Elder didn't really give him a scare at all.
No, I mean the closest set was that first one, and I mean it didn't hit extra points throughout any of the sets. This is a big, big win for St. X. Obviously, they had a nice one over St. Ignatius at the Centerville tournament, but they lost to Elder, I mean, pretty handily earlier this season. And like you said, Joe Taggart just with an unbelievable, unbelievable game. 26 kills through 5 sets would be ridiculous. To do it in three, hitting 465, he only had 6 errors. I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, we know what type of player he is. He's committed to Ohio State for a reason, but this might be, I don't know, a signature Joe Taggart game, maybe the best game I've seen him play in his years in high school.
Yeah, and I mean we've been talking about how Saint X hasn't really gotten that statement win yet to really put him with all the top dogs. This is definitely the statement win that they were looking for, especially against division rival, the Elder Panthers. And this is really just Joe just stepping up and really just taking over this game. Like we said, 26 kills with a 4.65 hitting percentage. That's what you want your Ohio State commit to do in the biggest of situations.
Yeah, and I mean, it keeps them alive for second place in the conference. They'll need to beat out Moeller to have sole claim to second place, but I mean, they've at least got a tie for second locked up now when it seemed like they were down and out early after starting with losses to Elder and Moeller. But Joe's coming in and he's doing his thing. And like you said, this is the statement win for them. But another Cincinnati area game moving down to D2. Alter Carroll, the GCL co-ed might not focus on it quite as much, at least these middle fighters, but this was a very, very close match the entire way through. I mean, 5 sets obviously, but each individual set, I mean, excluding set five, of course, that ended 15-10. The second, excuse me, the last closest was 25-20. That's how close this was. It went 21-25, 25-23, 23-25, 25-20, then 10-15 in favor of Carroll taking this one. This was just an electric match the whole way through.
Yeah, I mean we love our 5 set thrillers like this, and this game was probably one of the most back and forth games I've seen this season, and really just it really should have been kind of an easy win for Carroll. I mean, but they took it to 5, but they ended up pulling it out in the end. I guess just the wheels fell off for Alter, but still just a great game all around.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at the stat sheet, Parker Davidson for Carroll, he's a senior for them, 20 kills through 5 sets, and obviously that's not going to seem quite as ridiculous after we just talked for a few minutes about Joe's 26 and 3, but 20 in any game, no matter the set, incredible game from him. I think Carroll, like you said, it could have been an easier win for them. They definitely have some things they need to clean up. I mean, 30 errors in 5 sets, 25 errors in 5 sets for Alter too. Definitely, these two teams have a lot better volleyball to be played, but I think this was an interesting match to watch for sure. And I think that both these two teams might not be, really coming in as a lot of people's state favorites, but a team like Carroll, if they really lock in and play their best volleyball, can at least give a scare to some of these top D2 teams.
Yeah, I mean, Carroll has been playing some very good volleyball all season, but maybe this game, maybe they got a little too comfortable. They're like playing with their food a little bit, and it got a little closer than it needed to be. Maybe this could be a wake up call for them to say, like, we need to lock in every game. We need to play our best every game. We can't slack off. And they just can't have the risk of having a close game like this because if they want to hang with the the state favorites or the top dogs in D2, they can't be they need to be winning games by a margin that bigger than what they won by in this game.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what they do at this last part of their season. They've got a few more games remaining than most teams. I mean, they've got 6 games left, including 4 conference opponents. It's more than a lot of other teams across the state. I think 2 games against Beta and McNick and another one against Alter. I'll be interested to see what they can do with those games, see if they can get some big wins over Baden or McNick, because they would like to see those before the season's over. But another D2 team, Springfield, the Springfield Blue Devils. We've had them in our rankings. They've been flirting with that 9 and 10 spot for a few weeks for our D2 rankings, but 2 losses this week, pretty uncharacteristic for them. The loss to Northview at the start of last week and a loss to Steele halfway through it. Just not usually what we see from an otherwise solid team.
Yeah, and that game against Northview was a 5 set game that maybe they should have won. But regardless, Northview came ready to play and they were able to pull it out in the end. I mean, it was really another one of those back and forth games, and then Northview just squeaked it out in the end with the fifth set being 15-13. I mean, Springfield really has to make some changes after this week if they want to keep competing at a high level.
Yeah, I mean, Springfield has not beat Northview either time they've played this season. So definitely been a little bit of kryptonite for them. Like you said, that one went to 5 sets, but their Steele one, I mean, it was close within the 4 sets they had, but it was over in 4. Um, and it seems like they've just maybe got a hitting problem right now. I mean, they had, I think, 27 errors, something around that against Northview, and then against Steele, they have 26. It's just an issue that you do have to fix. You don't want to be seeing that this late into the season. It's really going to tank your chances in the playoffs.
Yeah, obviously nobody likes to have that many hitting errors in a game, and like you said, they really need to do something about that because if they really want to compete in the postseason, they really need to limit the mistakes and just keep the ball in play so they can at least have the chance of winning the game. If they can't keep the ball in play, they're just gonna beat themselves.
And I think the last, team that jumped off to us this last week was Dublin Jerome, who we know has been having a ridiculously good season. But they came back and they got revenge for their early season loss to Derby, 1-3-1. Then the next game they played, they swept Berlin. Two very good teams, two top teams in the Columbus area, beaten handily uh, by Jerome. I think that they're really setting themselves up well for a rematch this week against Worthington, but we'll see how they do. I mean, like I said, those were just two pretty nice statement wins for two teams that have been on a roll recently.
Yeah, and I mean this week was really a big bounce back week for Dublin Jerome because the week before they lost to both Thomas Worthington and Elder. Now to bounce back to beat uh, Hilliard Derby in four and then sweeping Berlin. I think that really just puts them back in the picture and is really a big, um, sorry, I'm struggling to find the word, a big like energizer, I guess, for the rest of the season. Gives them a lot of boosts their confidence a little bit uh, as they go to close the season.
Yeah, definitely. I think those are all the games we wanted to look at from the last week, though. This upcoming week, we'll have a pretty nice schedule as well, I'd say. Starting off with, we already talked about Carroll and what they've got ahead of them. Carroll Baden, I think, should be a pretty good matchup. Two solid GCL co-ed teams, definitely near to the top teams in Cincinnati for D2. And I think that while it may not be, really a fight that might decide and give you a look into who's going to be the state champ, it'll be, maybe some dark horse teams from the Cincinnati area for D2, and it'll be a good watch.
Yeah, I think obviously these last couple weeks are going to be very important, not only for Carroll, but just for everyone. I mean, everyone is just trying to play their best volleyball and try to cut down on the mistakes. And like this next week or two will really determine who has a real shot at going to state.
Yeah, and staying in the GCL co-ed, we talked about it with Coach McNick Fenwick. Going to be a very, very good watch. McNick, like we've said, might not be the same roster, but they still are. McNick, at the end of the day, who's a very talented team. They might not be holding their own against D1 teams like they used to, but they are still a threat for a lot of D2 teams. Obviously, when Fenwick and McNick played earlier in the season, Fenwick swept, but this time it's tough to beat a team twice. It's tough to sweep a team twice. I'm interested to see what goes on here.
Yeah, I think this game is definitely a very big game going on tomorrow night, like you said, and like we talked about with Coach before, McNick. Even though they don't have all their guys that they had the last couple years, they are still a threat. And Fenwick is playing some very good volleyball right now. But again, like Coach said, they're still trying to cut down on their mistakes, and their best volleyball is yet to be played. So maybe we'll see that tomorrow with another win against McNick, or we could see McNick get the revenge on Fenwick.
Yeah, definitely. This one I would say will be a look into some of the top teams for the Cincinnati area coming into the playoffs. But if we move up north, Hudson versus Jackson, I think will be a good matchup as well. Once again, these two teams maybe not going to necessarily come out of the Cleveland area, maybe not the favorites at least because of St. Ignatius, but two very talented teams nonetheless can give most of the D1 teams a run for their money. Just generally led by some great players, and I think that this one will be another close one.
Yeah, I think when I see Hudson, I kind of view Hudson and Baden as kind of similar teams, just because even though on paper they might not look like the best team, they can give any team a run for their money. It doesn't matter how much better, how much skill the other team might have. Like they will always give you a good fight. They'll always make you earn your win, and they're really just going to give you a good challenge.
Yeah, I'd like to see what they do for each other. They've got some pretty comparable, similar opponent wins and losses there, so that'll be one that I'll certainly be tuned into as it happens. But down to Columbus, we talked about this one for a second. It's Worthington Jerome. And this one might be, I mean, probably the I don't want to say most skilled matchup because of what we're about to talk about next after this, but definitely the two favorites to come out of Columbus right now.
Yeah, I mean these two teams, powerhouses in the state. Jerome, like we just alluded to, coming off a big week against with wins against Hilliard Darby and Berlin, and then Worthington has really established themselves as the team to beat in the state of Ohio this year. I think this will be a really good game, and I think it'll really tell us who who is going to be the favorite.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention this before too, but the OCC Challenge is happening this week. So the Ohio Capital Conference. We don't, I couldn't find a schedule for who's playing who first round. I'm not sure if it's determined yet, but just the amount of good teams in there will be a fun watch. You've got all the Olentangy teams, you've got the Hilliard teams, you've got Thomas Worthington, you've got the Dublin teams. It'll just be a generally good watch. Excuse me, yeah, and it'll be something fun to watch, I'd say for sure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, any tournament with those teams in it is going to be a good one. And just another kind of thing, just like another one of those tournaments where maybe the results don't really reflect on how the team really is, just because so many games being played in such a short amount of time, fatigue comes in, and maybe teams lose to teams that they maybe wouldn't lose to if they played in like a normal midweek game. But I think it's just kind of a good challenge to see how physically and mentally prepared these teams can be for the tournament.
And I think this is going to be our probably second to last game I'll talk about, Loveland Elder. This one might not be very close. Elder coming off a rougher week than normal with a loss to St. X, and obviously Loveland only has one loss to Lakota East, who Elder beat earlier as well. So this one might be pretty one-sided. I think this will just be a good benchmark for Loveland. Maybe not a five-set thriller where Loveland or Elder comes out on top, but definitely a recalibration game for Elder and a good testing game for Loveland as well.
Yeah, I think Loveland has played some very good volleyball this year, and but Elder has really just, I mean, besides this last game against Saint X, they've really showed that they can play at the highest of levels, and Loveland just hasn't really had the opportunity to show that. And I think Elder could be a good test for them, but I do agree with you, Tyler. I think Elder is going to dominate this one.
And our final one, we'll stay with GCL teams here. I don't know how we couldn't have put this last. It's probably my favorite game to watch every year. Obviously, we're a little biased about that one, but normally it comes with some pretty good results, one way or another. Whether you're a Crusader or a Bomber, Moeller and St. X final matchup to close out the GCL is going to be this Friday. And, I might not have been as excited as I was until we saw St. X beat Elder. It really feels like after that Joe performance that this one could maybe go an unexpected way. Moeller got the best of him last time in three as well. Excuse me, in five. And then the day after at the Centerville tournament, St. X got him without Joe Taggart and Henry Kane playing. But that was, of course, the tournament where there was a lot of wacky stuff happening in all directions. I'd love to see them play on some normal ground and normal circumstance, especially since the last one went to five.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this game. Obviously, being a Bomber, I always love a good Bomber versus Crusader matchup. But yeah, I think this will be a very good game. Even like the last time they played went to five, like you said, and then especially after the Bombers had this statement win this week against Elder, I think this could be really interesting to see what happens, because the Bombers have a lot of momentum right now, and Moeller's also really good at stopping the Bombers' momentum. So I think it'll be a great match to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I agree big time. This one you can never count out any other team. I think for a lot of people, Mueller is probably going to be the favorite here. But after like you said, Saint X's win against Elder, you cannot count them out. That's for sure. And this one hopefully gives us a great watch on Friday. But I think that's all the games we had to talk about here. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. We'll be back next week with another episode.